Good evening, Mr. President, and esteemed panelists, and my fellow debaters. So, I'm Ashish. I'm from University of Petroleum Energy Studies, Dehradun. I will be speaking in favor of the motion, which is human dignity is a fundamental right guaranteed under the Constitution. So, we have to understand a very basic normative, a basic idea that is human dignity is a thread which has kept every fundamental right in consonance and has kept it together, and has the human dignity is echoed throughout our constitution. It doesn't matter, it's not, even if it's not contextualized or textualized in the constitution itself, it has to be understood that it has been upheld by the Supreme Court multiple times in many judgments like Menka Gandhi, Khadak Singh, and the list goes on and on and on. We have to understand this particular thing, that human dignity also it starts as a kickstart button for social justice in a nation. For example, mere expression of all men are equal doesn't mean they are. They had a judicial intervention. They had to understand that human dignity and the treatment of American Negroes had to be understood, and the entire litmus test for which was used for what is a dignified treatment of a human has to be understood. Hence, the judicial intervention was necessary. Furthermore, we have to understand the entire perception that human dignity acts as a foundational principle for interpretation of constitutional values. Article 21, or for the matter of fact, Article 14, it allows and it also magnifies and establishes the claim that human dignity is a fundamental right and has been there since the very inception. We have to understand that human dignity, or recognizing human dignity as a fundamental right, is a divine right, and it was in pre-existence before the concept of the state. But by multiple judgments by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, it has been established as a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. We have to understand one more thing, that India as a nation has recognized human dignity as a paramount. When it came to the case of Kasab, when none of the advocates was agreeing to represent him in front of the court of law, the Supreme Court asked and told that every person, no matter how inhuman act they have committed, they will be treated with equal dignity, and they will be represented, and they will be subjected to a due process of law. Hence, these kind of instances have recognized and also has paramounted that, you know what, India recognizes human dignity as a fundamental right. It also acts as a safeguard against an arbitrary act that the state can implement before its citizenry. It can ask the citizenry to understand that, this is an act that has to be done in a dignified manner. It cannot be taken away under the curtail of a sovereign act. We have to understand, and this is why people, our citizenry in the first place, understand that these paramounts, or these are the parameters, that this is something that I need to be treated according to. And there are multiple judgments that have mentioned that, every human has a right to breathe clean air. Every human being has a right to medical, a proper medical attention. Every person has the right to be represented before a court of law. You have to understand, these rights are not mentioned anywhere, but it does not take away this matter of fact that it is not recognized as a constitutional right. We have to understand that not mere textualization or contextualization by the legislation shows a lack of political will, not something that has been taken away the recognition of the human dignity as a right. It's necessary for us to understand that human dignity is a litmus test for our nation. We have to understand that the entire kickstart of the movement for recognition of human dignity as a fundamental right or a human right started off by the inhuman treatment of citizens across the world during World War II, or the post or the colonization period. We have to understand that. Hence, mere stating that this is a constitutional value, it is not. It has been recognized. It might be a constitutional value before the Menka Gandhi judgment, or after the Menka Gandhi judgment, it opened the floodgates for the Supreme Court to decide that these are the rights that has to be recognized, that this is something that every dignified human being has to have, no matter what kind of reasonable restrictions that the state can implement. But we have to understand this very well. Human dignity is an absolute right, and that has been implemented not just by a person who is out, a person who hasn't committed any crime. We have to understand that even the prisoners in our jail systems or in the criminalized trial, under trial or whatever, they have been also given proper human dignity, what kind of treatments they has to be done, and what these parameters shows that human dignity is recognized a constitutional right, no matter the circumstances. If you are a law-abiding citizen or you are not, are you a citizen of this nation or not, it doesn't matter. Human dignity will be guaranteed to you and will be protected by the courts, no matter what it takes, no matter what is done by you. This is something that has been recognized and emphasized by not just Supreme Court of India, but multiple high courts across the nation. These are certain things that my fellow debaters came here and they told me, and told the esteemed panelists as well, that this is a constitutional value. But we have to understand that if something is not textualized or not mentioned in the constitution, it doesn't matter. Because if the courts, the Honorable Supreme Court has given it an interpretation, for example, we don't follow the procedure established by law. We follow the due process of law, which was upheld by the Supreme Court in the Menka Gandhi judgment. Just elaborating and summarizing it. So we have to understand this very well. That mere giving them a written status cannot take that it is not a constitutional right or just a constitutional value. So it is a constitutional right which is guaranteed by the Supreme Court and the Constitution.
Thank you.
Every time you are asking, both of you are asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So just one question and maybe after that.
I will answer your question because you have too many questions. I will answer your question when the debate is over. Anybody?
So you might be aware of the recent controversy which was prevailing, that whether an unborn person has the right to life and individual dignity. So to what extent do you think this right can be extended? Whether it should go to whether it should extend to recognize the right of an unborn person, or unborn person individual dignity. Like in the recent case, it happened when a woman was claiming abortion after 23 weeks and the Supreme Court finally said that she cannot abort it.
See, if you are asking my own personal opinion, I would say yes, and there are multiple judicial settlements that it would be recognized a human dignity or the right to life of an unborn child as well. So this is something that has already been settled in law. So I don't think so I might have that capabilities or expertise to answer that. But it's a settled law that law will recognize the human dignity as well as the right of life of an unborn child.
But what about the woman who also wants to abort that child? Does she do not have that dignity?
Your question has been replied to in the judgment.
Judgment itself. So this is something.
There was a fractured judgment, 1:1. The matter was referred to larger bench. By judges bench, they have answered this question. And where were you for the last, say, 21 weeks? Why did you not come to the court earlier? You see, every right is not an absolute right. It has reasonable restrictions everywhere.
On matter of fact, if I am allowed to, thank you. On the matter of fact that you have to understand that even though there is a human dignified human dignity has been recognized as a constitutional right under Article 21. But we have to understand that the Constitution also itself allows positivist discrimination. So we have to, in order to provide a proper mechanism and redressal of the set of the society that have been systematically exploited over the time. If you talk about special status given to the SC or ST, or even special reservation provisions made for the women itself. So we have to understand that systematic discrimination or exploitation has been taken into due account and proper redressal systems has been made. Yes, ma'am, please. Thank you for the question.
You yourself said that it doesn't matter whether we explicitly write human dignity in the constitution. Then what difference would it make recognizing it as a fundamental right rather than a constitutional value? Because constitutional value makes it a guiding principle and a bedrock for the lawmakers to form the policy so that it does not violate any kind of human dignity.
Ma'am, I would just like to reiterate what my friend from Uttaranchal said, that a guiding principle or a principle that might give away to the government to make laws. You have to understand, if something has been recognized as a right, you can go to the court and ask for a proper redressal. For example, DPSPs are a guiding principles for the state for what to do and what not to do, etc., for the betterment of the citizenry. But it cannot be exercised, or it cannot be, anybody cannot ask the government to enforce them, because you need to have a proper law in order to implement them in the first place. So it is very necessary that it has to be recognized by the courts as a constitutional, and it is already had been. And before even the Menka Gandhi judgment, the human dignity echoed throughout our laws, not just the constitution, if matter of fact. So that is very important. So this is my answer to you. I agree with that.
Another question. Do you agree that human dignity has multi-facets?
Ma'am, it's an ever-growing and ever-evolving subject.
You agree with that?
Yes.
You agree with that?
You have to understand. See, okay, please come.
Isn't it better to have that every stanza, every line speaks of human dignity rather than just having it in one provision and defining it when we know it can't be defined?
Okay, great. Aila? See, you have to understand this very well. Right to life. What is life? Nobody has answered that. Everybody will answer in a perspective of their own, and multiple interpretation and multiple meanings of the word life has been, not just by the Supreme Court, multiple judges and all across the globe. So even if we give, life as human dignity has been given, if it's not being included in the law under Article 21, or due process of law has not been implemented or inculcated in the Article 21, it shows a lack of political will. This is not a question of legality or something like that. This is a clear-cut picture that there is a lack of political will to do something that has been already been done and has been recognized by the Supreme Court. I think that is my answer.
Thank you. UPS against the motion.